Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us this week at Uncorked, PA. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, my name is Missy Wilson. I'm a second generation winery owner at Sutter Ridge Vineyards. Moving back to Pennsylvania in 2005, I've spent over 15 years seeing so many changes in the Pennsylvania wine world. My early years were spent in the vineyard and in the cellar before making my way into the tasting room and more of a management role. Enjoy spending a half hour with me twice a month to meet the growers, the winemakers, and the proponents of the Pennsylvania wine industry. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button to see each new episode as it airs. This week, we're going to go on a road trip. We're headed to the north central region of Pennsylvania, and we're moving into the center of the state, so just above Harrisburg, to visit my old college stomping grounds of the Lewisburg, Selinsgrove, Sunbury area. Although this area is definitely on the rural side, we're going to introduce you to a few wineries in the area, let you know of several more you can visit while you're up there, and give a few suggestions of ways to make this into an overnight trip with some great attractions in the area. Looking to put together your own trip? Whether starting with the wineries that we have on today's show or visiting several in your area, don't forget about the great resources that the Pennsylvania Winery Association has on their website, pennsylvaniawine.com. There's links to all the wineries in the state, plus a great tool that'll help you build your itinerary. So now that we finally hit spring, it's a great time to touch base with your significant other, best friends, or family and pull together a fun day of wine tasting throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So let's start today's trip with a visit to Pharaoh Vineyards and owner Chuck Zielinski. So Pharaoh is located just outside of Lewisburg, where Chuck and I actually both graduated from Bucknell University. So thanks so much for joining us today, and Ray Bucknell.
Yeah, Ray Bucknell. Good afternoon, Missy. So,
So, Chuck, your entry into the wine world was a little bit different than mine. I'm second generation, you're first generation. So, you started as a successful urologist and you have a century old farm and you wanted to make sure that it was preserved and not put into development. So, when you made some decisions about how to move forward with your farm, what made you think of grapes?
well, grapes are a commodity that grows well in climates similar to what we're in, and I kind of figured that out when I was in college and did a year abroad in Vienna, way back in the 1982, and just realized that grapes and grape culture and wineries really fit in with a rural kind of community in this type of climate, and that's I love the wine.
Wonderful. So, you originally started planting in 2004, and you mentioned to me earlier that you started with a test plot before you decided what you wanted to plant your full vineyard with in 2010. So, what did you find that the benefits of doing like an original planting before you did the whole big kabam? And what grapes did you decide to include, and which ones did you decide maybe weren't the best?
Well, taking my Bucknell history and biology and research and honors graduation, I did an experiment and I went and planted similar rootstocks and varieties that you would find both locally, like the Finger Lakes and South Central PA, where there have been vines growing for a long time. In addition to that, the vines of the Central European area. We did a trial of about a dozen different varieties, and it ended up we wanted to split between white and red, and the white varieties were easy. They seem to grow really well in this area. They just naturally like it. The reds were a little more challenging because we're not quite as warm as they are down in South Central and Southeastern PA. So our growing season is a bit more like the Finger Lakes, although a slight bit warmer and longer. And we found that Lemberger or Blaufränkisch was a really great variety that grew every year and did well. Pinot Noir really loved it. It grows fairly rapidly and matures every year. And then Separavi is just our kind of our cult unique red wine that we do. And the failure, they weren't really failures, but we didn't do the Cabs and Merlots like everybody else did. We could grow them, but they didn't thrive in this community. And we wanted to do something kind of unique for our area and special. It was
Yeah, so you had
connected.
mentioned the Saperavi, and I think you also grow some Gruner as well. So was it a difficult decision to do something that's not a traditional, well-known grape, such as, the Rieslings and the Cab Francs and things like that? Did you have any, you know, did it take you back where you're like, I don't know if this is going to work so well because people aren't familiar with this varietal?
I think we kind of that hurdle. Everything is you just there's just no history to grape varietals, so we just kind of knew that's where we were going and were willing to do what we thought would work best.
That's great. And I think it's great to do something a little bit different. I always tell everybody when you go to a winery, find that grape that you have no clue what it is and try it because it might be your new favorite. So I love that you're embracing your Bucknell roots with your bison roots, orange and blue. So those of you guys not familiar as with Bucknell, the bison is the mascot, and our colors are orange and blue. I feel like if you didn't go there, you don't think they go together, but if you did, it's an amazing blend of two colors. So, can you tell us a little bit about these two wines that you have?
So the orange and the blue are obviously grapes we grow here. They're more tailgate themed varieties. They're not really orange wine, although I have thought about making an orange wine, but we didn't quite do that. So the orange is typically a Pinot Grigio, and the blue is a Pinot Noir. We just bottled that one today. The Pinot Noirs are barrel aged, and they're just a nice typical Pinot Noir, and the orange is just a stainless steel aged white.
And you've had some great success with your bison roots blue, correct?
Yeah, I think the Reds have done really well in a lot of things. So we've done some awards with that. A number of our Reds we have, they seem to really like it here. So and we're bottling the 2020 year, which was the best year I've ever seen, like as far as grape varieties ripening.
Speaking of bottling, so currently in the background, down in the cellar, you so graciously took some time out to talk to us today. You're actually going through a ton of bottling right now. You've brought in a mobile bottling line and have spent yesterday and today kind of finishing up your spring bottling for the year. So, how's that going? And what are the kind of the benefits of having a mobile bottling line instead of having something permanent in your cellar?
Well, we're going to do 18,000 bottles in a day and a half. So that's the benefit is you do like, a good chunk of your year's sale in a short period of time. It is hectic as can be. It's just a circus of moving parts, but in the end it's over and you're exhausted and really happy. And then you just have to put everything away and clean it up. Just from a logistical point of view, getting a bottling line is really expensive and a lot of challenge to doing it, maintaining it, and upkeep. And we found that there's some companies that do it really well, and they come and you get everything done, and it's sanitary, sterile, filtered. Everything is perfect, and then it's gone, and I don't have the equipment sitting around. I don't have a place for it, and it'll
Yep, you
take me
don't.
probably like 50 years of this cost to pay for an equipment line. So it makes sense.
Exactly. So a little bit stressful leading up to it, but then once it's done, you're good to go for another. You said you do it like twice a year, so another 6 months or so, and then you'll go through the process again, right?
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So, you have a succession plan already in place too. I love second and third generation wineries, which is great. So, you have four kids, but you currently have one of those four works with you on a regular basis in the winery. So, what role have they kind of taken over?
Nick Kipolo is our son, and he does all kinds of things everywhere. He's really kind of taken to the vineyard recently, but he does a lot of the sales to restaurants and helps manage things and does a lot of bottling. He's kind of a cellar rat on the side, and his fiance is just really does a lot of the event stuff. Carly, she's really helpful. So it's good to have family in the business.
It is. It's great. And you kind of, at that point in time, is when you decide what direction you really enjoy being in. I was never a great outdoor or basement type of person. I enjoyed dealing with people a little bit more, but you get your hands wet and feet wet and actually everything wet when you're in the cellar. And you really get a chance to figure out what you enjoy doing. So that's great. You have such a pretty location, and it's a perfect day to spend a day just relax and wine tasting. So if people want to come out and visit you, what are your current hours?
We are open 7 days a week. Almost every day we open at 11. Every day we open at 11. I think we close a little early on Sundays. Usually we're open till I think it's 6. There'll be summer hours coming up when it's summer till 7. We're just less than a mile off of Route 15 north of Lewisburg. So it's pretty easy to find. That is a picture. Oh, yeah, the picture in the background is me standing over the vineyard looking over Lewisburg. You can
Yep.
hear the Bucknell chimes when it's calm.
So, if people want to get some additional information then about coming out to visit you, the specific hours in the tasting room, some great info about your facility, which you guys are pet friendly, which I know a lot of people like, what's the website they can go to?
Pharaohvineyards.com, Fero, and that's the family name. It's my wife's maiden name, and the property was her family since 1812, and that's kind of a neat historical thing. But Pharaoh would sell better than Zielinski wine anyway.
A little bit easier to pronounce.
Yeah,
So thanks again for joining us, Chuck. Good
we
luck
appreciate
with
it,
the rest of
Missy.
your bottling, and I
Uh,
can't wait to plan my trip to see you guys this summer.
Ray Bucknell.
Right back now. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
So, if you just travel a little bit southwest from Lewisburg at Fero, you'll reach Shade Mountain Winery and Vineyards. So, my guest Carl Zimmerman has actually been farming there since 1972, and it was another great situation of moving part of the family farm into the early into a vineyard in the early 90s. So, thanks so much for joining us today, Carl.
Turned on?
Yep. Yep,
Oh,
you're good.
good to go. Okay, yep, good to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. So, your vineyards is actually considerably bigger than Faro, and it's actually even considerably bigger than ours, which I think is a fairly large vineyard of over 25 acres. You currently have about 70 acres of vines in the ground, which must be the most beautiful sight you've ever seen. What made you decide to move from other crops into planting a vineyard?
Well, somewhat desperation and somewhat not sure why. You know, it was the fates have led us in strange ways over the years, and that's where we wound up. It's a long story, and I probably don't have time to really deal with it right now.
Well, I think it's you say the desperation, it's so funny. So many people, it's like the exact opposite. They wanted you, and you decided to take, what did you say, Christmas trees out and move it into grapevines instead?
Yes, we had, the initial vineyard site was intended to have Christmas trees planted on it. But till we got it, the ground prepared and, the ground cleared, the bottom had fallen out of the Christmas tree market, so it didn't seem like as great an idea. And the grapes seemed like a better idea.
Would you do anything different as you have? I'm sure you put many, many, many hours into each and every vine that is in your vineyard right now. Would you have changed anything knowing how much effort goes into a vineyard versus a Christmas tree farm?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we definitely made the right decision. I mean, so no, we would not have changed anything, I guess. We have the kids are all back, they're all helping, and, there's a multitude of opportunities for everybody here. I mean, we haven't run out of things to do yet. It's an infinite amount of work, so
It is. There's never enough time on your day, right?
Yes.
So you currently have about 30 different varietals actually planted in your vineyard, which is amazing. So what do you think some of the more unique grapes that you have versus other vineyards and wineries in Pennsylvania in the ground? So instead of I'm sure you have Chardonnay and Pinot Gris and things like that, but what are some of the different ones and the little bit more interesting ones that you guys grow?
Since there's really no history, we were never afraid to plant, different varieties just to see if they grew or to see how they did. And, over the years, there aren't too many varieties that we haven't planted. I mean, we've planted, we've kind of always pushed the envelope as far as cold hardiness, and that's typically, the limiting factor in this part of the world. But we've planted Barbera and Syrah and Sangiovese and Tannat, and some of them, I mean, we pushed too far, and they weren't really suitable, and we had to give up on them. But other ones, I mean, Syrah is one typically not grown in this area, and we've actually had fair success with that. But we also plant the Gruner, and I mean, we've never been afraid to do different things.
I feel like that's the key to a successful vineyard and winery is to try something a little bit out of the box because you're never going to know what works if you don't try.
Exactly. If we were afraid to, to do abnormal things, we wouldn't be here. And that's probably where, any success we had might have been out of, we were too dumb to know we couldn't do it. We just went ahead.
So I noticed that you guys actually do something a little bit different too. You guys do both ice wine and late harvest wines. Can you tell us the difference between the two of them? And do you make them every year or kind of just whenever the conditions are the best?
Well, late harvest is typically, that's easier. Typically you let the grapes hang as long as you can till they get super ripe. The ice wine is, it's a target of opportunity. There have been years when it has gotten cold enough early enough in this area that we've been able to make it, but it's once every 6 or 7 years. It's erratic, but it happens. So when it happens, we take advantage of it because the grapes have to be frozen when you press them, to make an ice wine.
Yep, so you get that really concentrated.
Do not always, accommodate us here.
Yeah, yes. If we have a warmer winter, which I know most people enjoy, you're not going to get your ice wine for the year. So, as we mentioned, similar to Chuck at Fero, you have your children working with you. So, how many kids do you have working with you, and how do you kind of have them spread out throughout the winery and tasting room and vineyard?
You have all 4 children are working here. I have 2 daughters and 2 sons, and the daughters are in the marketing end. They kind of take care of the sales. And the 2 sons are helping with, they're helping or running. They're getting old enough. Hopefully, they're taking over and hopefully they do it quickly. With the vineyard and the winemaking end of it,
Well, that's great. So if people want to come out and visit you, where can they find some additional information about your current hours, the wines that you have available in your tasting room? What's your website?
I am going to defer that to my daughter being technologically deficient.
ShadeMountainWinery.com.
ShadeMountainWinery.com. That sounded simple enough.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Carl, for taking some time out from the vineyard to joining us today. So definitely when everybody heads to the North Central region and start in that area, you're going to make sure you want to take a stop to Shade Mountain Winery and Vineyard. Get to their website at ShadeMountainWinery.com so you can have their most up-to-date information about their wines, their hours, and their events. So these are 2 great options that we've given you of wineries within 30 minutes of each other in this region. And it makes for a great day trip or even an overnight trip to the region. So I'm actually happy to have with us today Judy from the Susquehanna River Valley Visitors Bureau. So in case that you want to make it into something more than a wine tasting trip, we can add a couple more things to your itinerary. So thanks so much for joining us today, Judy.
Thank you so much for having me. I love to talk about our beautiful region.
So, in addition to Pharaoh and Shade Mountain, there are actually several wineries in the region that if people just want to make a winery trip only, they have places to go visit. So what are some that you can suggest for them to go to?
So we have several wineries in the Susquehanna River Valley. 11 of them are featured on our website. I will say between the 2 that you talked to today is Union Cellars. It's our newest winery. It's family owned and operated, and they have a really nice selection of wines.
Perfect. And if they venture out a little bit more?
A little further, yep. So about a half an hour between the 2, right outside of Sunbury, Pennsylvania, you will find Whispering Oaks Vineyard, which is pictured here, and also Spyglass Ridge Winery. Both of these are well-established wineries, beautiful vineyards, great tasting rooms, and lots of patio space to just sit and enjoy.
Perfect. So in addition to wineries, if we kind of want to make this into something a little bit more fun to do, you have some really fun and interesting shopping in the area too with antiques and artisans. So if we want to go the route of shopping and wine, what are some great places that people should stop at?
So we really like to say that there's a treasure around every corner in the Susquehanna River Valley, and that becomes very obvious in our shopping. Antiquing is very popular. In Lewisburg, just down the street from Pharaoh, as Chuck said, you'll find the Roller Mills, which is 400 antique dealers located in a renovated mill. So a beautiful place to antique for the day. And just down the street from the Roller Mills, you'll find Silver Moon Antique Mall. So another great place. In nearby Mifflinburg, I have two artisan shops. So Pompey Street Soap is a favorite with a lot of visitors. They do handcrafted natural bath and beauty products that they make right on site. And then new to Mifflinburg is the Artisan Corner Co-op. So you'll find a number of artisans directly in the store. Of course, right down the street from Shade Mountain Winery, you will find Penns Creek Pottery. And Penns Creek Pottery, again, beautiful old mill that's been renovated into the studio and shop. And often you can find the potters working right on site in view while you're shopping. So great opportunities for shopping and the visitors at the Susquehanna River Valley.
That's great. So if instead we plan on doing a summer trip and we want to make it into something family friendly, so we have our kids with us, where, obviously you want to go do some wine tasting as the adults, but you want to do something more family friendly with your kids in the meanwhile, what are some fun places that you have that are a little bit more family friendly?
We are a great place for families, and we have a lot of different options. Three of them I have pictured here, three of our favorites, T&D's Cats of the World, very, very close to Shade Mountain Winery, which you would never know. It's truly a hidden treasure back behind these cornfields and in the valley. Literally, if you're watching the sunrise, you might hear a lion roar across the fields, and that is T&D's Cats of the World. They are an animal rescue with over 300 wild animals that they have rescued from various situations. So wonderful option there. Clyde Peeling's Reptile Land is about 13 miles north on Route 15, very, very close to Fero. And that is a world-class reptile and amphibian park. So if you're into the creepy crawlies, that's definitely the place you want to head. A little bit further down the road, but getting a lot of, it's very nationally acclaimed, is Knoebel's Amusement Park. So people come all over for Knoebel's, partly because they have two world-class roller coasters that win, every year they win awards for best wooden roller coasters for their roller coasters. They also win for their carousel, where you can literally try to catch the brass ring. But one of the great things about Knoebel's is that they are no admission fee, no parking fee, free entertainment. So it's really a place where the whole family can go and spend the day.
So that's great. So you can bring the kids, but have some fun for adults at the same time. And now that the weather's actually warming up, people are ready to go outside. So do you have a lot of outdoor recreation available too?
Well, we're located right on the beautiful Susquehanna River, and a lot of our region is comprised of field, forest, and mountains. So naturally, we are an incredible destination for outdoor recreation. Some of the favorites include hiking and bird watching, fishing and paddling. We are becoming a huge bicycling destination nationwide, partly because of the beautiful landscapes, as you can see here, but also because of the varied terrain. We have options for if you want paved roads or rail trail, we can accommodate that. We also have a lot of gravel trails, which is becoming incredibly popular around the country, and of course, mountain biking. So all kinds of opportunities to enjoy all four beautiful seasons in central Pennsylvania.
So if, say, your husband or whoever you're bringing with you on the trip isn't necessarily into wine, we have some opportunities to think outside the box when it comes to restaurants and some brewery options too. So you can hit up the wineries and then go out for dinner afterwards. Where are some great places to go ahead and do that at?
Absolutely. We're actually sitting right in the heart of the River Rat Brew Trail, so a lot of brewery options. I picked two here that were, again, close to the wineries that you were talking to today. Rusty Rail Brewing Company is in Mifflinburg, and they renovated an old factory that was once used to produce carriages and then automobiles and at one point furniture, and now they have renovated into a brewery, a brew pub, a restaurant, a venue, and they also have some beautiful lodging space inside. So that is definitely not to be missed. And then one of our newest breweries, Jackass Brewing Company, is right outside of Lewisburg. They sit directly on the rail trail. So they have a beautiful patio in back. If you're coming back from your cycle or you're taking your dog for a walk, you can stop in on the patio and have a drink. So those are both great options. And in spring and summer, one of the popular options is the Fence Restaurant, which sits right on the restaurant, and it has traditional car hop service, which is a lot of fun. It also is, if you want to, you can sit at a picnic table right by the river and enjoy your fish sandwich. That's their special claim to fame.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Judy. There's a lot of great options for people to make a real day trip or overnight trip, depending on where you're located for in this area. So don't forget to stop by, visit centralpa.org to start planning that trip of yours. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you so much.
So we've had a great time today talking with Pharaoh Vineyards and Shade Mountain Winery and the Susquehanna River Valley Visitors Bureau. So this trip to the Lewisburg area is just one of the many trips that you can decide to plan for your next wine outing. The North Central PA region has amazing vineyards and wineries with grapes that we all know and love, plus new ones to definitely try out. So pair your wine tasting with some antique shopping, outdoor recreation, or family time, and make it a fun day trip or an overnight adventure. So don't forget to utilize the tools on both the Pennsylvania Winery Association's website and the Susquehanna River Valley Visitors Bureau websites to plan that trip. So you want to go to pennsylvaniawine.com and visit centralpa.org. Join us next time when we're here in April as we start chatting about Easter wines, plus Earth Day is coming up. So we're going to learn a little bit more about what's currently happening in the vineyards. So mark your calendars for the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of every month starting at noon to join us as we stream live on Facebook and YouTube. Don't worry if you can't join us live. You can always rewatch our programs whenever it's most convenient for you. Or if you prefer the streaming option and just audio only, you can listen to us on Uncork PA on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your favorite place to stream your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the station so you know when new episodes are posted. And we definitely want to thank the Pennsylvania Wine Association for supporting this program with grant money from the PLCB. We look forward to sharing more hidden gems of the Pennsylvania wine world for you next time. Have a great day.